He once drank himself to death behind the stage, ruined hotel rooms with Ozzy Osbourne, and then came back to clean it up like it never happened. He has also played guitar with his own blood. A tempest in guitar form, Zakk Wylde is more than that. The thunderous heartbeat of American heavy metal, for more than 30 years, Zakk, who is now in his 50s, used to perform with a bottle of Jack, but now he has sober eyes, a pure heart, and a guitar that belonged to Darrell, who was a penny bag. Rather of waking up to the roar of a Marshall amp, the man now prays silently to God first thing in the morning. He has calmed down, yet he still wears leather and maintains a wild beard, as if completely cognizant of the consequences of overstepping once more. Zakk Wylde escaped the clutches of controversy and stardom. He chose to pause, stand up and proceed. As a result, he is now a legendary character in the realm of heavy metal, a father, husband and friend, who never pretended to be anybody else, a warrior who never betrayed his fallen brethren, and a free spirit who understood when to quit being wild. This isn't only the tale of a survivor rocker, it's also the story of a lost soul who, rather than seeking admiration, is now marching tall in the light, demonstrating that authenticity is more powerful than any guitar riff ever could be. Biography: Jeffrey Philip V. Lant came into this world on January 14, 1967, in the working-class industrial town of Bayonne, New Jersey. Nobody there dared to dream that one of the most unique guitarists of the 1980s would come out of there. He came from a humble Polish family that wasn't exactly flush with cash. They weren't exactly living the good life either. Zakk seldom brings up the topic of his father Jerome's upbringing in an orphanage, although everyone is aware of it. That is where his calm demeanor and steely determination originate. As a child who was enamored with music, but had no one to share it with, Zakk endured a subtle loneliness. When he was 8 years old, he got his first guitar, but he quickly put it down. He came back when he was 14 years old and stayed put this time. It seemed like the only way out for Zakk, so he started playing guitar constantly. On occasion he would play for 12 hours non-stop until his fingertips bled, falling asleep in class as his thoughts were absorbed by the tinkling of strings and sounds. While his peers were out enjoying sports, Zakk hid in the garage and played the same solo until his fingers were numb. It wasn't because he felt pressured, or because he yearned for fame. Having the guitar with him gave him a sense of purpose, he thought. School was pointless. Zakk endured it out of obligation, but it was during school performances that he initially encountered public speaking, playing a rudimentary guitar as his expressions ranged from fear to rebellion. Zakk learned an important lesson from those performances, even if they didn't make anyone shout. A powerful and honest guitar sound is essential for making your voice heard. Zakk played in a local band named Guitarist and worked at a supermarket after graduating from New Jersey's Jackson Memorial High School. He started going by the self-made moniker Zakk Wylde about this period. Untamed, and nobody can spell it, so you have to ask twice. Zakk didn't have a particularly eventful upbringing, but he learned one fact with each passing day. He would ignite a fire himself if there was no light outside. Zakk Wylde's personality and fate were shaped by the guitar, which transformed from a dead item. Nobody ever showed him the ropes when it came to painting, but he learned to live and never look back via obsessive repetition and a fixation on every sound. Initial years of employment: no one in New Jersey in the 1980s paid any attention to Zakk Wylde. He was a member of the little band Guitarist, and they would play at local watering holes while he stood behind the lead singer and riffed on an ancient Gibson Les Paul, under the radar, unrecognized. Zakk, though, would play with whatever he could get his hands on, even while nobody was looking. He jokingly said that he would perform as if he were opening for Black Sabbath at Madison Square Garden, even if there were just 3 inebriated men in the audience. It was more of an attitude than arrogance, the type that makes an otherwise dismal musical journey take a turn. After Jakey Lee departed Ozzy Osbourne's band in 1987, a covert hunt for his successor commenced. A guitar instructor Zakk had in the past recommended that he contact Sharon Osbourne with a demo cassette. A brief solo, some shaky vocals and a few of riffs were all that were on the cassette, finishing touches not applied. It was sufficient, though, to halt Ozzy in his tracks. Some aspect of Zakk's performance, raw, uninhibited but precise, was too much for Ozzy to overlook. It was like a real-life rock movie when they first met. Zakk remembered that he was trembling like a leaf. When he shouted play, I was too weak to even raise my hand. However, Ozzy turned to Sharon and said, "He's the one," after only a few notes. Zakk, a quiet blonde boy who had just left an unnamed band, officially replaced Randy Rhoads and Jake E. Lee as Ozzy Osbourne's guitarist within a matter of months. No Rest for the Wicked, their debut album together, came out in 1988. Zakk contributed a very own style, not just imitating others. The band's riffs are razor-sharp, their solos are scorching but heartfelt, and their reverence for Ozzy's music is palpable. Zakk rose from relative obscurity as a local guitarist to prominence as a promising young talent in American metal in the span of just 2 years. Emotion, not skill, was what made him unique. Standing on Ozzy's side, Zakk never merely played, he experienced it every time. It was as if he were doing his own final performance. Then Zakk Wylde's career took off, and he wasn't slaving away in a freezing garage anymore. An iconic figure's dying scream was passed down to a young New Jersey boy, and the story became a folktale. A turning point in my career. With Ozzy Osbourne's 1988 album No Rest for the Wicked, Zakk Wylde firmly established himself as one of heavy metal's finest guitarists. No one could have predicted that this fiery guitarist with blonde hair would remain by the Prince of Darkness side for an extended period of time. During the tough time after Randy Rhoads' death and Jake E. Lee's departure, Zakk's violent playing, gritty tone, and refusal to compromise helped Ozzy get through it. A watershed moment in Zakk's career came with the 1991 album No More Tears. For the first time, his guitar skills became an integral part of the songs, and he was no longer only an afterthought. The band's new spirit was born from it. The guitar message in the title track No More Tears was ferocious and eerie, like the scream of a spirit split in two by the abyss. Zakk also demonstrated his compassionate side on the album's lone ballad, Mama, I'm Coming Home. Similar like a youngster missing his mom, he collaborated with Ozzy on songwriting for one of his most powerful singles. Zakk turned down an offer to replace Slash in Guns N' Roses following 1995's Osmosis, but he eventually decided against it. He resented being apart from Ozzy. Zakk showed his character by sticking with the guy who believed in him, even though it meant sacrificing more recognition. Zakk was nevertheless aware that he would always be in another person's shadow until he created something unique. At that moment, BLS Black Label Society came into being. Zakk started BLS in 1998 not to compete, but to provide a space for himself to be himself. Similar to Zakk, the band personified music that was raw, untamed and snarling. Sonic Brew, their first album, wasn't exactly a smashing commercial success. However, it did set the stage for the cultish BLS culture that metal fans all around the globe embraced with albums like Stronger Than Death 2000, 1919 Eternal 2002, Mafia 2005, and Order of the Black 2010. Zakk was more than simply a musician, he was the architect, the conductor, and the very essence of the entire empire. In This River, a song dedicated to Dimebag Darrell, became an unspoken hymn of metal community togetherness and grief. Herein lies Zakk's singular talent. Even though his music was violent, he always managed to convey profound emotions. You can sense the perseverance of a man whose scars could only be healed by music in songs such as Spoke in the Wheel or Dead as Yesterday. Zakk continued beyond BLS. He formed Zakk Sabbath in 2014, to perform his own unique takes on Black Sabbath songs. There was more to it than that. Zakk wanted to pay homage to his heritage while still appealing to a younger audience with Sabbath music. A shocking news rocked the metal community in 2022. In Pantera's reunion lineup, Zakk Wylde was selected to replace Dimebag Darrell. Charlie Benante, Anthrax, Phil Anselmo, and Rex Brown were also part of the lineup. Instead of a whole new Pantera, it was a live homage featuring Zakk playing Dime's real guitar and the original sound replicated by Dime's longtime tech Grady Champion. Zakk regarded this as more of a holy obligation than a professional high point. His only intention was to honor his friend's memory. He never intended to play the role of Dimebag. The album by Zakk Wylde did not top the Billboard charts, there won't be a deluge of his singles on the radio. However, he boasts an ardent fan base that includes everyone from young loner rockers who identify with BLS's nasty riffs to bikers, veterans, and underground rockers. A fleeting fad was not started by him. A refuge for the bereaved, he constructed an impregnable stronghold. Even though we live in a disposable society, Zakk Wylde has not changed a bit. Someone who cannot be replaced, someone who fights for what is right, someone who tells stories via music, and someone whose soul is indelibly linked to metal. My own life, few people think of Zakk Wylde as a man with anything softer than his untamed beard, ripped leather jackets, sledgehammer-heavy guitars, and vicious snarl. Zakk Wylde is an exception in the rock and roll industry, as most marriages end in divorce as quickly as guitars do on stage. He has been faithful to his high school love Barbara Wylde ever since they were married. Barbara and Zakk first crossed paths in 8th grade. She was the unsung hero in his early years, when he was still rehearsing in dusty rooms all across New Jersey, taking care of logistics, delivering water, tallying the pitiful sums from gigs, and never once requesting recognition for her efforts. A rock star wasn't the object of her affection. She was captivated by a young man who had just a guitar and a vow, "To the very end I will give it my all." Not via celebrity, but with steadfast devotion, Zakk fulfilled his vow. Haley Ray, Jesse John Michael, Hendrix Halen, and they tied the knot in the 80s, with Sabbath Page and Michael Rhodes. Their very names, which pay homage to musicians Zakk holds in the highest esteem, convey the breadth and depth of his musical appreciation. Eddie Van Halen, Jimi Hendrix, Randy Rhoads, Tony Iommi, and Jimmy Page drummer. However, Zakk does not view his family as a place of worship. It's the one location where he may return home while disrobing his armor. Barbara is a wife, but she is more than that. On every tour, she accompanies him and acts as his manager, as well as the first to detect a dramatic deterioration in his health in 2009. She was the one who took Zakk to the emergency room when he unexpectedly got blood clots in his legs and lungs. He may die, doctors said, if he kept drinking. The ordeal caused Zakk, who used to drink excessively and relied on Jack Daniels as his only antiseptic, to completely give up alcohol. It was a tough call, but he knew he had to make it for his music, his family, and himself. Zakk started reading the Bible first thing in the morning, started meditating regularly, started training weights, and ate cleaner than before. He continues to play metal, wears black and roars when performing. However, behind the scenes, he may be contacting his wife, or sitting silently with his eyes closed in prayer. There will be no celebrity flings or rumors of an affair. Zakk dated model Susie Owens for a short time before Barbara, but they broke up immediately after. There has never been a family controversy involving his name in the last 30 years. Standing firm and clinging to the hand that has been at his side from the start, Zakk opted to avoid the industry's lost souls. "I'm more devoted to my wife than to my team," Zakk remarked once, "but I am a rabid New York Yankees fan." A peculiar life philosophy lurks underneath the comedy. It doesn't matter whether a guy screams into a crowd of strangers. What matters is that he finds a spot to gently set down his instrument and lean on the shoulder of his most trusted companion when he returns home. That spot has remained unchanged for Zakk Wylde. Enduring impact and legacy. Zakk Wylde's monumental physique slumped over a guitar following each performance wasn't the only thing that made him memorable. His shrieking pinch harmonics resounded like howling in the night as well. Something more profound, the impression of a metal warrior who lived completely, not for popularity or fads but out of devotion to the music and its artists, is what he left behind. Zakk Wylde is a legendary figure in the world of guitar. He isn't the most innovative or technically advanced player. The ability to generate a guitar tone that is uniquely his, the sort that identifies him with a single note, is a rare talent though. Unpredictable and profound, established a distinctive sound that impacted many musical subgenres including groove metal, doom, southern rock and contemporary heavy. Zakk is also unusual among musicians in that he has widespread acclaim from all corners of the metal subculture. No matter how much disagreement there is among Ozzy, Pantera, Black Sabbath or BLS fans, at least they all agree on one thing. The man, since he has never deceived anyone, just shrug, nod and say, what truly defines Zakk's legacy is the way he lives his life. Zakk remained true to himself through thick and thin, whether it meant doing it alone, giving up drinking, or just living in stark contrast to the culture around him. In a business where musicians were constantly changing allegiances and departure plans were commonplace, he exemplifies the fact that one can be a passionate artist while still being an attentive spouse, kind parent, and dependable friend who remains by your side through thick and thin. Zakk Wylde's unforgettable stage presence may be more enduring than his albums such as No More Tears, Mafia, or Doom Crew Inc., where his guitar playing conveys more than meets the ear. It is a powerful symbol of unwavering faith, bravery, and devotion. How can one be considered a genuine metal legend? This could be the solution for Zakk Wylde. His goal was never to join their ranks. All that was required of him was that he remain authentic. Present day, Zakk Wylde is 58 years old, yet he is still going strong. Actually, in 2024 and 2025, he was not only performing but also paying tribute to the legacies he grew up with, and he seemed more engaged and active than he had been since reaching 50, battled side by side, and is now carrying on the cause. The Pantera tour, which began in 2022 as a huge worldwide memorial to the band's late members Dimebag Darrell and Vinnie Paul, is currently Zakk's main focus. Zakk and Pantera will be taking their tour to major venues across North America in 2025, including Denver, Santa Clara, Tampa, and Philadelphia. Zakk isn't only performing music, he is reliving memories with Dimebag's own guitar in his hands. The same fans who wept over Pantera's demise are now standing before the stage crying over something new, something authentic, moving and deserving. Simultaneously, Zakk is an integral part of the Experience Hendrix Tour 2025, a countrywide tribute to Jimi Hendrix, who was an inspiration to him as a youngster. Guitar greats such as Marcus King, Eric Johnson, and Kenny Wayne Shepherd will be performing at dozens of towns across the United States and Canada from March to April 2025. However, Zakk's unique style, which incorporates not just skill but also raw rock and roll soul, has made him one of the most talked about performers. Zakk Sabbath, his tribute band to Black Sabbath, continues to perform, with Zakk serving as the lead singer. They went on a cross-country tour with tribute groups like the Iron Maidens and Zoso in late 2024 and early 2025, as part of the King of the Monsters circuit. Continuing their European tour from Manchester to Berlin in early 2025, Zakk Sabbath paid respect to Tony Iommi, whom he affectionately called the father of heavy metal, by performing Iron Man War Pigs and legendary renditions of NIB. In addition, compiled fan-favorite covers for a downloadable album called Greatest Riffs with Zakk Sabbath. The album has been well received by both longtime fans and newcomers alike, and it marks a significant milestone in Zakk's 30-year tenure as Sabbath's musical director. On July 5, 2025 in Birmingham's Villa Park, Zakk will take part in Black Sabbath's farewell concert, which is sure to be one of the most moving events of the year. After almost 20 years apart, Ozzy Osbourne, Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, and Bill Ward finally reunited for this historic performance. Despite not being a full-fledged Sabbath member, Zakk's acceptance of the invitation to play at the band's last concert demonstrates his profound spiritual connection to the group. Zakk, his wife Barbara Ann, and their 4 children reside in California while he isn't touring. Since he stopped drinking in 2009, he has stuck to a healthy lifestyle and avoided short-lived temptations. In his appearances on podcasts, talk programs, and behind-the-scenes films, he consistently brings the charisma, wit, and passion of a genuine musical fighter to the table. No retirement announcement has been made by Zakk Wylde. Maybe never. He'll keep on playing even if the power goes out. This is for everyone who has ever loved music, Ozzy, Dimebag, Sabbath, metalheads everywhere, and the guy himself. Next, how about you? Which Zakk Wylde song would you most like to hear if you could see him perform live right this second? Let us know what you think by leaving a comment. If you want to hear more true tales of music, sweat and blood, then you should subscribe to the channel, the one that you have just seen. Your presence is appreciated. I will see you in the subsequent video. Keep it up.